Normally because it's a legal matter, we can, if we so choose, discuss this in executive session, but we felt, given the nature of this and that it's been discussed publicly before, that the residents deserve this to be discussed in public. It's not being discussed in public at all, none of it, even when they make even stuff that maybe should be. So we're going to discuss it in public so that the public knows what's going on. So Jim, I guess if you want to just turn it over to you and give us a history of this, which I think I'm pretty familiar with, I think most of the board is, but also it's as much for the residents, and then also what the latest quote offer is.
Thank you, Mayor. So over the past 4 years, the village has made numerous proposals to both of the school districts, and the goal of each of these proposals has been to improve the economic vitality and strengthen the educational and recreational opportunities for the residents of Orland Park. As you can see on this first slide, the proposal timeline, this goes back all the way to 2021, where the village made its first proposal. Then we had a deadline was set for that first proposal on December 3rd, 2022. Next, we had a second proposal in April of 2024, and then a third proposal just this past October.
If I recall, that second proposal in April occurred after they threatened to sue us?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's a little more information in the rest of this presentation. So going to the June 15th, 2021 proposal, as you can see, the village made an offer of many different types of issues. So in this particular offer, the village was going to agree to invest $3.2 million in the South Ball diamonds and ball fields at the John Humphrey complex. District 135 was going to receive land that would accommodate a second driveway access at Park School. Both of the school districts would receive revenue from impact fees per an IGA. Next, the village would give the Cultural Arts Center to District 135 for a unified preschool program. Next, the restructured TIF to take 9750, which is the apartment complex at the Triangle development, and which is at this point is the only property currently in that TIF that is actually generating increased tax revenues. So out of the existing TIF district, so the school districts would get about $4.3 million. Next, the school districts would ask to support the extension of the Main Street Triangle TIF. And lastly, the districts would enter into an IGA with the village for 25 years of ball field usage, which is the same kind of understanding that we've had for several years now, which makes the ball fields available when they're not used by the school district for other recreational purposes. So the district...
So Jim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if I'm looking at this right, the District 135, because I recall they get a little bit more than District 230, so they were going to get about $5.4 million worth of basically capital improvements and cash, and we were going to get a 25-year IGA for the fields and an extension on the TIF, correct? And they were also going to get engineering and property for behind Park School. Is that basically the summary of that?
Yes, it is.
And District 230 was going to get about $2.1 million of actual cash, again, for those same things. Okay.
Right, so this was made in June of 21, and the school district did not respond over the next year and a half. So rather than accepting the donation, basically, that the village was going to be making for the Cultural Arts Center, District 135 proceeded with a $17 million building expansion instead. According to the district's own numbers, they could have accomplished the same thing at the Cultural Center for only $6 million, but instead chose that $17 million expansion.
Okay. And I know we took the culture, we said, fine, you don't want the Cultural Center, we'll take it, and we demolished it and we're making it into a bigger park. Okay?
So moving on to the next proposal, this is December 3rd of 2022. Mayor, you sent a letter stating that the economic conditions have changed. It's been a year and a half now, and they're going to move forward with keeping the 9750 apartment inside the TIF district. However, the mayor said that because the other offer had been extended to 2021, the village could give the district until the end of 2021 to accept the previous offer. The village invests again in this ball fields at the John Humphrey complex of about $3.2 million. District 135 would receive that land that would accommodate the driveway access for Park School. Both school districts would receive revenue through the impact fees via a intergovernmental agreement. And restructuring of the TIF at the 9750, the only taxing entity or property within that district that's generating significant revenue out of the TIF district, which would yield the school districts about $4.3 million. So basically, a very significant offer was made. The school districts did request more time to consider this comprehensive proposal. The village did extend that timeline to respond until February of 2023. Ultimately, though, the school districts did turn down that offer in February of 2023.
And just so the public's aware, our board agreed that I would send that letter and in December. And, basically what we said is the economic conditions had changed. The TIF, we knew, of course, we all know it lost $47 million, but not only that, we knew that extending the TIF, which was our previous offer, extending the TIF was probably not going to generate enough TIF dollars to actually make a project viable. So those things all in consideration, we said we have to do something different here. However, we also said, hey, this has been on the table for a long time. So in good faith to our partners, the schools, we would give you to the end of because they still hadn't given us an answer, we'd give you to the end of the year. They said, well, our board won't meet by the end of the year, so we gave them until February, and then they both turned it down. But we told them point blank that this offer is coming off the table. So we were very clear, and it did.
Right. So the next significant event is in February of 2024, and the school districts, both 135 and 230, threatened litigation against the village for about $600,000, and this is related to the Main Street.
I think it was just 135, right? 230 kind of punted on this, or were they part of that letter?
I believe the attorney that represented or presented that letter represented both, I believe.
Okay.
At the time.
At the time, and I think 230 kind of backed off of it, but 135 still kept that out there. Okay?
That's correct.
So just to be clear, we offered 135, $5.4 million, 230, $2.1 million. They turned it down, and they said, we're going to sue you for $600,000. Just to be clear about that negotiating tactic, it's brilliant.
So next,
Yeah, as the clerk said, math. Maybe District 135 and 230, maybe they should go back to remedial math class. That's a good idea.
So moving on to the April 1st, 2024, the village extended another offer here, which the districts would receive revenue through impact fees with an IGA. The village would, again, invest $3.2 million in the ball fields at the John Humphrey complex. The village would continue to offer that free land and the engineering needed to accommodate a new secondary driveway at Park School. And there's also other considerations related to the school district supporting the TIFs. One of which was existing, but also the new one that is being proposed, and a couple other new ones that are being proposed. So the district itself would not litigate and would not get in the way of the village proceeding with these new opportunities to enhance the economic development within the community.
And so to be clear, they basically both lost over $2 million because they made a poor decision. And we told them that this was a poor decision and that we would take this off the table. We took it off the table. No surprise, we told you we were going to do that. And then now they're, again, threatening to sue. They rejected this proposal as well. And just to be also clear that the supporting the new TIFs, there's really nothing school districts can do to stop those TIFs. If they don't support them and they litigate, they can slow things down, but that's all they really can do. So it's not even asking them for much. It's just basically saying, don't slow this process down and tie everyone up in litigation that you're not going to win. So that was really more of just a courtesy so we wouldn't have to deal with the issues. And we still think that fixing those fields is a good idea. It's still in our budget for our capital planning.
Right, so the school district responded a few weeks later on April 29th, and both of the districts had rejected this most recent proposal from the village.
We'll get into that.
So the most recent proposal from the village was on October 11th of 2024. And in this proposal, the village would pay District 135 $150,000 per year for 5 years. District 230 would receive $150,000 per year for 5 years. The districts would in turn agree to not object to a 12-year extension to the proposed TIF at the former Andrew Corporation property. The districts would also agree to support other potential TIFs, including 143rd and John Humphrey and the one at 159th Street. Also, the village would prohibit any residential development within the new TIF, the Downtown Orland Park TIF. The village would, again, continue to invest in the ball fields at John Humphrey at a tune of $3.2 million. District 230 in exchange would allow for continued use of the high school's football fields for the Pioneer program. And the district would receive revenue from the impact fees through an intergovernmental agreement. And the agreement would also nullify the 2007 Main Street Triangle TIF IGA and put to bed any of the potential or threatened litigation against the village. The school district responded in February earlier this year. Both districts wanted the impact fee revenue. District 135 requested the removal of the 9750 apartment from the Main Street Triangle TIF. Again, that's the only real true revenue generator for that TIF district. And 230 said that they may be willing to discuss this proposal. We have not heard any other details at this time. So to go to the next slide, it's kind of a summation of the benefits that were, some of which were extended here to the school districts. And as you can see, kind of with each of the 4 proposals there, District 135 is represented in yellow, District 230 is represented in blue. So these are in millions of dollars. So the mayor had indicated some of the totals, you know, reaching $5 million or more. And then you can see even when they were threatening lawsuits, the village was still extending very beneficial proposals to both of the school districts. And one of those benefits would have been represented here in this master plan in terms of improvements that could be made at the sports complex at John Humphrey.
So summarizing here, even our most recent offer offered them more than what they're going to be getting with their counteroffer and or their threatened lawsuit, and they turned it down. So in other words, give us everything, we'll give you nothing, and that's basically their proposal. So it is the most baffling negotiating I've ever seen in my life. Board, does the board have any comments here?
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Reardon.
They're using an attorney through these negotiations, correct?
They have.
And so these are coming on attorney letterhead, and they're talking about TIF districts, right?
Correct.
And they have to understand that the 3 or 4 areas that we're talking about are completely unusable, not being developed at all for various reasons, and will not get developed unless we provide them some sort of assistance from the village. True?
Correct. Yeah, these TIF projects can occur.
I mean, the Andrew Corporation property's been sitting there for how long now?
Yeah, the only thing that can't occur, so we do need them to extend to 12 years. If they don't, it won't extend to 12 years. But here's the kicker on that. If they extend the 12 years, the developer can make it work with the timeline to do age restricted and do like 240 or 50 units. It's in that range, okay? But it's an age restricted 55 plus, which means you're gonna get very few students. You get paid for them anyways, but very few. So most of the money will go into the TIF for the cleanup and for the 151st grade crossing over the railroad, okay? That's what the TIF money would be used for. If they don't extend it 12 years, the only viable option, and that might not even be viable, is to do about 500 units, and include kids, which means they're gonna flood the schools, and they're gonna flood the same schools. How is the school district ever gonna deal with that? Yeah, sure, they'll get paid for it, but the reason why it has to be that many units is because they get paid for those kids, and to get enough money to generate to clean up the property, then you need many more units. So everything they're choosing is bad for the village, it's bad for them, it makes no sense. Unless you look at it through not what's best for Orland Park, and you look at it from a political lens, then maybe it makes sense.
And just to finish up on the picture on the right, those are the fields that are behind like High Point and OJ.
Yep.
Right. And they're right next to John Humphreys, which we're willing to clean up, fix up, make them adaptable to additional sports, take care of them, but they get first use all the time still. It's free. I mean, there's no downside. They're not giving up anything that they don't already currently have, except they're getting better maintained property.
The only difference is that these agreements have been typically like 5 years in length. And so they've gone about for the last 40 years, but there was like a 2 or 3 year period where the boards were fighting, and so they didn't do it. And the agreement basically is we maintain them, we cut them, we clean them, we fertilize them, we do all of that to them, we schedule them, but they get first dibs on all scheduling. So anything they need, they get the first dibs, and we schedule it for the rest. It's worked out pretty well. And our thing is that if we're gonna spend 3.2 million, I don't want future boards fighting. Let's just agree to the one that we've agreed to forever. We haven't changed anything about it. And also we're adding a soccer field there, and they're going into interscholastic, they've now gone into interscholastic soccer, so it gives them a soccer field to play on, and gives them, and anyone who's been out there knows the fields currently are almost useless for softball or baseball, unless they're for the youngest kids like T-ball. And these would actually make much more useful fields, just like what's out there now.
Has the 135 board ever, or their attorney ever asked us to come and meet and maybe go sit in on one of their board meetings so that all the board members, not just maybe a couple, understand and are actually behind these letters and this negotiation? So my point is,
I've met with a few of the board members and explained this.
Do they feel they're getting explained it by their own attorneys?
They're not really very forthcoming. So, yeah, it's baffling.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Trustee Healy.
I'd like to know, how much are we out of pocket on this TIF district? We've lost 42 million or?
47.
47,
But we're actually a cash loss.
Yes.
correct.
47 plus, we have to move the utilities that they put in the wrong spots, $3 million bucks. And then we also have to do a Metro parking lot, which is another 4.5. Rashid, roughly. So that's 7.5 million more. So really the loss is more like 54 million.
And how much is the school district out of pocket?
Zero.
Zero. So why are we offering them any money at all? I mean, these people are nuts.
Well, so at the end of the day, Bill, we're looking at the Orland Park as a whole. Those school districts sit inside our village, and this is a win-win, we think, for the village and the schools. That's why we're doing it. It's not because we're viewing it as I want to take this and you get this, and you know, we're trying to find a win-win solution, which I think we have here, and someone keeps.
Well, there's when that first TIF was organized way back when, you go in as a team to try and develop this property for the benefits of the school and everything, and we lose over $50 million, and then now it's like that old line, after the battle is lost, they want to stab the wounded or whatever. So they're just, I don't know. I'd like somebody from their side to explain why we're out so much money for trying to help them out. It just doesn't make any sense.
The agreement, the 2007 agreement that they refer to, basically, first off, we've determined, I think our attorneys have determined it wasn't legal because basically they get paid out first before other taxing bodies, which
isn't allowable.
Which isn't allowable. So I don't know why that was agreed to in 2007, but that's, if there's surplus, they know from the TIF meetings that we've lost 47 million.
Do they think we're lying about what's actually in these TIF funds? I mean, we show them the.
I don't know what they're thinking, you know, and I think they know better. I think it's, I think there's other motives. It's certainly not the best interest of the people of Orland. Any other comments? So I have some comments that, you know, as many of the members of this board do, I have over 25 years of negotiation experience in business and in government. And in general, dealing with government entities is ridiculously cumbersome, to be blunt. It is not unusual for government bureaucrats to keep asking for more and more, and time after time. But this one takes the cake, it really does. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. I grew up here, my roots are here. I went to Doctor, I went to Center, I went to Park, I went to Orland Junior High in Sandburg. My kids went to Center, Meadow Ridge, High Point, Century, and Sandburg. I don't act, and we as a board don't act parochially just for the village of Orland Park. We try to do what's in the best interest of all the residents because this is our home. It was a great place to raise kids. It was a great place to be raised. I want it to stay that way. This is so obviously a win-win, and the school districts are actually getting the financial benefit of all of this. We don't bluff or play games, but it, quite frankly, gets really old watching two boards make decision after decision that are horrible for our residents and our children. That they threaten to sue the village because they want a do-over on their poor decision. Now they make a counteroffer where the village gives them money for no reason, again, to offset their stupid decisions from 2022 to 2024. We all sat here and kept scratching our heads. When you look at this, it's like, it still makes no sense to me until 5 months ago, when the political nature of these decisions became abundantly clear. At this point, in my opinion, 4 years is enough. We should simply pull this offer and retrench after the election when there are new boards in place, and hopefully we get some people with some sanity on the other side that we can get this done. So with that, I will entertain a motion to reject their offer and to pull our offer from the table.
So moved.
Any comments on that?
Maybe that'll get their attention.
Call the roll.
Trustee Reardon.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Campos.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. So there you go, Jim.